I pushed the wrong button.
Hey, it happens. I am an erroneous button pusher, famous for it.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Cults and Conspiracy here on NXIVM.
Hold
What?
on a second.
Uh-oh.
I got an echo. Hold on a second. Sorry, Jay. Damn. Damn.
You got
I
two of
can't
them
even
open?
find it. No, I'm trying to find it. I didn't even see it. Like where it is.
So you don't have an echo on my end.
Where is it? I don't see it, Jay.
Yeah, I said you don't have an echo on my end.
How about that? Is it gone?
Like I said, I didn't have one over here, so I don't know.
Is the echo gone?
I don't have an echo. You can hear me, right? Yep. Okay.
I can hear you. Yep. I can hear you.
Yeah. Was there an echo for everybody in the chat?
Yeah. Yep.
As we see.
Do you hear that repeating?
No. Nope. I don't hear anything on my end. Yeah, Alias says no echo on there on the chat either.
Well, then we're good then. If I hear it, that's fine. It's not going to be too crazy for me. I don't hear it anywhere else, so we're fine.
So you got the audio on YouTube open?
No, I don't have anything open on YouTube on the notebook that I can see it. And I could drop out, come right back in, and then see if it fixes.
You can try that.
Okay.
I'll get the intro done while you're doing that.
Okay.
So while she's doing that, welcome back to Cults and Conspiracies here on Hereticals. This is episode 5 on our multi-part series on Nexium. Today we'll be covering Nexium itself, the ESP program and the subgroups. We will not be getting too much into DOS because DOS will be next week's episode. And for that, remember, next week will be all about a sex cult. So trigger warnings for those who are uncomfortable with that type of talk. Also, there may be a couple little things here and there this week, but we won't go into any details really too much. So if you guys are just trigger warning, just in case. Like I said, the next couple episodes, I know the next 2 will be hard for people to hear because it will be all about the sex trafficking and what was done to these horrible women over there. And then that's next week. And then the last episode, we're going to be going over the actual court documents, the sentencings, and all that for what happened with those in Nexium. While we're still waiting for Claire, remember there is no 6-pack this week. 6-pack will return on the 7th. Let's see what else is going on. That will be, I believe it's we're coming. I know we're coming up. There's Claire's back.
Hey,
I know we're coming.
It's much better.
There you go.
Was something went wacky. Like that was very weird. I apologize, everyone. It's just, I mean, I'm having a good morning. Like, why is my Chromebook starting to mess with me? That's not fair. So, anyway, did you miss me?
Always. So, we just for a heads up, tomorrow night on my True Serial channel will be the first live episode. And I will still be doing regular videos. I'm trying something new. Claire will be joining me on my inaugural episode on the live over on True Serial.
On inauguration? I've never been to an inauguration. This is cool.
But it will be about the FBI's presentation on serial murder. So if you guys are into true crime and serial killers, join us over on True Serial tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we are going to jump into this because there's a lot of information coming through. Before we actually get into anything on ESP and DOS, I'm going to share this picture that we've been holding on to since we started this. This picture, this picture will give you an example. If you see here on the bottom, this is Keith Raniere and Nexium. If you go through and you look through all the different things here, this is where they got a lot of their stuff they use for ESP and DOS and all that stuff. Everything from the U.S. Navy to
Mhm.
Freud, Aleister Crowley, L.
Mhm.
Ron Hubbard, Bandler and Grinder, um,
Mhm.
Rand, Tony Robbins.
Mm.
You know,
That middle part is so important because remember when we were
yeah.
talking about
This is the
Nancy
all the
and Keith,
hypnosis.
and
Yeah.
they started with hypnosis and they went right down to Erickson, and then and Saltzman actually trained with Bandler and Grindler herself one on one with these guys. Um, these are mind benders extraordinaire,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. The connections to Scientology and the terminology, you know, that they
Yeah,
use.
the step program that you see
Mm-hmm.
in Scientology is a lot like the step program they use in Nexium.
Mm-hmm. They just
Um,
switched the words around, but it's
yeah,
the same principle. It's just, yeah.
they took stuff from Rosicrucianism,
Mm-hmm.
Freemasonry, like we said, Aleister Crowley,
Mm-hmm.
sci-fi, acting, soap operas, judo.
Mm-hmm.
So they pulled like everything they could get their hands on, dealing with the
Yep.
mind and everything else, just trying to build
Mm-hmm.
this cult. I mean, there's no other way to
It,
call it. Nexium was a cult.
mm-hmm.
Um, so,
It
but like I said,
started as a money making scheme, and it just kept going. Hmm?
so like I said, we've been holding on to this one for a while, but we wanted to show you when we started with Nexium this is the groundwork that was laid for Keith Raniere
Mm-hmm.
and Salzman to build and create Nexium. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah, that
it.
is yeah. So if you want to take a look at this on your own, just type in Nexium influences
Mm-hmm.
in your Google search, and it should bring that up for you.
Right. It's also attached on the Wikipedia page for Nexium,
Yep.
and down at the bottom, they put a link for it right there. A small image of it is right there that you can follow the link for to get a hold to make it easier. But yeah, it's fascinating when you see all. You know, he took pieces of everything. So
Mm-hmm.
one thing is interesting to note that none of it was original,
No,
as
it's
he
it's all
proclaims to be.
yeah,
Mm-mm.
it's all
None of
taken
it.
from other things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it just makes him more of a charlatan, yeah, than a mastermind. So yeah, yeah, which
So
that
no, go ahead.
no go on.
Okay.
That didn't.
All I was gonna say is so on today's agenda, I'll be going through
Mm-hmm,
ESP, the layer work of the Sashes.
mm-hmm,
Well, we're going to talk about Vanguard Week because actually Vanguard Week was a very important part in Nexium itself, and then we'll just touch on the subgroups, and then Claire's going to talk about what got the government involved and why they started looking into
mm-hmm.
Nexium in the first place. So we're going to start right off. First off, thank you everybody for coming. Wooly, I wish I could pin anything, but I don't have that power. But we
Mm.
will get a link dropped into True Serial. Claire, if you want to do that.
Yep. Let me just get it and pop that up there. Let me find the link to the channel,
Yeah.
and I'll put
So
it
we
right up.
got a free super chat from Raven says free super chat. Yay. That is from the intro, from the memberships. And just so you know, she's been membership from day one. Thank you to my
I
beautiful
bet you
wife.
number one, right? Number
I
one
don't know
membership.
who number one was. I know she was really close.
We're gonna say it was her. We're giving it to you, Raven. That I said so. Let anybody come at me and challenge that. You're the one. Yeah,
There you go. Raven's
yeah.
number one.
That's right. Raven's number one.
Oh, Krabby was already grabbing it. She already got it.
Oh,
So.
Ray, I got it there. I'm gonna push it anyway. But thank you, Krabby. You're quick. You're quick. Thank you.
So let's talk about Nexium and ESP.
Mm-hmm.
ESP is short for Executive Success Programs. It was a workshop. Sorry. ESP training is offered through a workshop called Incentives. The term incentive is fairly common in the human potential movement to describe their training courses.
Mhm.
ESP incentives are offered as a 3-day or weekday, 5-day or 16-day incentive. The 16-day course starts at 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. daily with lunch and dinner breaks. And the tuition of that was $7,500 or $6,000 if paid 2 weeks in advance. Full tuition must be paid by the first day of class. The 5-day incentive costs $2,700 with pre-registration discount of $2,160. Those classes are the same for the 16-day incentive. And then the 3-day incentive, which was Fridays from 4 to 10 and Saturday from 8 to 9, Sunday
Mhm.
from 9 to 6. Tuition there was $1,200 flat.
Wow.
Now these programs, I'm sorry, there were also other programs called Ethos Training for Coaches and Coaches Apprentices.
Mhm.
This program appears to be beyond the 16-day intensives. There's several levels and lengths of the enrollment, and costs vary according to time of enrollment from 3 to 12 months or $800 to $1,800.
Mhm.
There is a full refund guarantee for those signing up for the 1-year Ethos program if students are not satisfied, which is something you don't see a lot of times in cults. That giving things back to people once they take it. So I thought that
Mhm.
was kind of interesting because they did offer a refund. And usually, like I said, with cults, you give, you don't get back.
Mhm.
So,
That is odd. I wonder if they actually gave it to them, or if they just said they gave it to them. I don't know. I wonder.
we'll go into the sashes in just a second.
Mhm.
Because that actually, there was one thing about the sashes I thought was funny, and we'll get to
Mhm.
that in just a second. So, the ESP intensives then lay out the mechanics on how the students will achieve all their success promised by ESP. This
Mhm.
process is accomplished through a series of topics presented during the intensive sessions. Raniere places great emphasis on the psychological concept of projection. However, according to ESP, until now there has never been a concise explanation of how this complex process works. The intensive includes the 3 stages of human evolution in which, according to Raniere, human beings are born parasitic, unable to take care of themselves, they depend on others for their very survival. As an adult parasite, as adults, parasite strategies keep people dependent on others and lower self-esteem.
Hmm.
Many examples of parasite behavior are presented, such as complaining about pain and suffering, saying, I'm hungry. I know I promised, but I had no idea how hard or painful this was going to be. Those are just a few examples. The point here, according to ESP, is that parasites try to avoid responsibility simply because they tried so hard.
Hmm.
Now, I got an expert from the actual workshop. Now, you've got to dig if you want to find this information because the websites are
Mhm.
actually gone. ESP's gone, Nexium's gone.
Yep.
So you've got to dig through and search articles and stuff to find this. Um, a lot of the stuff I found, I wish I would have saved it, and I knew I didn't. I didn't grab any links this week, and that is my bad. I'm sorry, but I found an article with a gentleman. It was a doctor of psychology did a rundown of everything involved in ESP,
Mhm.
and then went through like line by line and dissected this whole thing. So the program spells out a new version of good and bad, and a sample from the workshop states this. When we were little children, we learned bad when someone yelled no, or that's bad, stop. We learned
Mhm.
good when we were rewarded in some way. This sort of learning is inconsistent and limiting because, in order to have a full understanding of each concept, we would have to examine every example of good and every example of bad. This practice session affords you the opportunity to reevaluate your definitions of these vital concepts to form a solid foundation for the future. In the course of the program, normal terms such as good and evil are redefined. Good becomes pro survival, bad becomes counter survival or destructive of value. The rules,
Hmm.
according to ESP, are fear based and ethics or internalized. That last part was actually from the psychologist that looked into this. That was his quote
Mm-hmm.
under the thing. So, mm, um, other concepts covered in the motivation section include away from patterns that focus directly on circumstances to avoid trigger, a stimulus response mechanism used to bring back an emotional state, the motivational state of will. During the exploration of meaning sessions, senior members questioned participants as they delved into their childhood memories. Where does that sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
That is straight
Mm.
out of Scientology.
It is.
Because
Yep.
that's what Scientology would do is they would just
They're.
hammer and record and talk about
Mm-hmm.
everything in your past so they had
Mm-hmm.
or so
They
that
are.
they get
They.
information to hold over you.
They did. They had other. They had another very important term that they carried over from Scientology. They also used the suppressive term. They called people that were involved in these that if you weren't progressing enough, they were suppressive.
Yep. And I believe
Yep.
I actually cover that a little bit later.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. Yeah, which I can bring that up right now because actually it was
Mm-hmm.
coming up. So Nexium taught that some people called suppressives try to impede programs within Nexium. People who
Mm-hmm.
irrevocably turned against Raniere were said to have undergone the fall and were labeled, in the words of a former member, as Luciferians, lost
Right.
people of whom bad feels good and good feels bad. Now,
Mm-hmm.
we already talked about one of those people, and that was um, Tony Natali.
Yeah, she
Um,
left for. Yeah, she was one of the
yeah,
larger ones who left first. She
yeah.
sued him for bankruptcy and a failed business deal. Yeah.
Mhm. And
Mm-hmm.
like Shay said, it's emotional blackmail. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. It is, Shay. Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna go into the colors of the sashes next because this is how you moved up through the ranks. And I actually have monetization involved in this, which is another thing they took from Scientology.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the process of moving up in rank was up to the leader Keith Raniere, who wore a white sash and considered himself a student. But it generally involved taking more classes and paying more money and recruiting new members. Frank Perlato, who once worked for Nexium before helping expose the groups, compiled a first-hand account of the sash color system for Art Voice. So, white sashes were for students, which are
Mm-hmm.
those who had just joined the program. Anyone who paid to join the program got a white sash. They must earn 4 white stripes in their sashes before advancing to the next color level. Vanguard, or Keith Raniere, wore white. Now, being the highest level you could be in this situation, you would have thought he would have worn a different color, a color that nobody
Mm-hmm.
else wore.
Right.
But he always claimed he was a student himself. So he never promoted himself. So he stayed white.
Mm-hmm.
And when in doing that said, it sets a mindset for the other people in Nexium that look, I'm just like you. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
special.
We have something in common.
We
You
have
can
something
get
in
here
common.
too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have something in common. I am always learning just like you are always learning.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a tactic to make the new members feel comfortable, for them to engage more, say, hey, look, we're right there with him. This is the guy that found this, Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a neat little tactic he tossed in there.
Yeah. It's like you can get here too, because I'm just like you. Like you think I'm so great and I have all the answers, but I'm just like you. Like
Yeah.
you can get right here like me. It sets a false precedent that they're going to be able to get to the top. You know.
So the next step was yellow. The yellow is the next
Mm,
step is the coach. These members worked for free for the organization and had to pay dues.
mm,
And nothing special there. It's just kind of your next step. The next one, this is the one that I thought was interesting because of who's involved in this one. The next step was orange.
mhm,
Proctors wore orange sashes, and these people were able to earn a small salary or commission for recruiting. However,
mhm,
you had to pour a lot of money into the organization to make this small salary.
mhm.
Allison Mack was a one stripe orange, and Claire Bronfman was a two stripe orange.
Mhm.
Now, if you remember, Claire and Allison were huge, especially Allison, were huge in everything that went down with Nexium. And to
Mhm.
think that they were only at level 3 in this
Yeah.
in the
Mm.
organization, to me, is a strategic
Mhm.
placement. Say, look, you know, look who we've got in here. Look, they're only 2 steps ahead of you. You can make it.
Right.
You can be right there with them.
It's like an
With this
enticement.
yeah,
Mhm.
with this well-known actress and this
Mhm.
heiress, and you can move here too if you just put in the
Mhm.
work and put in the money. You can make it here.
Mhm.
You can be in the same level they are.
Right, and it
And that
also, when you're not moving faster, it showed that, well, they look at them, they're so successful and they're not complaining about only being on the third rung. Like, what are you
Yeah,
worried about?
yeah.
Yeah, like, why you want it to go so fast? Like, yeah, it made people hold back a little more so they could make more money on the other levels.
So the next step was green.
Mm,
Green are the senior proctors. As you move up in rank, you're still investing a lot of money in Nexium and won't see yourself moving up if you're not. A green sash generally cost a member around $1 million. Lauren Salzman was a 4-stripe green, and I put Claire, Sarah Bronfman and Sarah Edmondson were also green, wore green
yep.
sashes. So
Mm-hmm. Yep.
now the next two, I couldn't find a lot of information, and I didn't find any members that were listed. We will. There's
Mm-hmm.
a couple, but I couldn't find any names to associate with these next two. But the next one is blue. Blue
Mm-hmm.
is for counselors and costs about $5 million. Those
Mm-hmm.
members do make a salary, but it's nothing compared to the money they put in. I didn't find anybody who was a blue, so I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
Well, the top one would be Nancy, right? Because, yeah,
yeah,
I think Nancy.
that's
Mm-hmm.
gold. We got 2 more levels before that.
Mm-hmm.
So after blue became purple, these were senior counselors. This level was extremely hard to reach, and according to Parlato, only 3 people ever reached purple. And like I said, I couldn't find any names on
Mm-hmm.
who those 3 people were. It's probably because they weren't involved in the stuff that came later. They were just part of the company, so there wasn't any,
Mm-hmm.
you know, anything like that to look into. They weren't involved in nefarious stuff. They're just members
Right.
of the thing.
You know,
So the
there's so many members, and you can't find all the names of all the
yeah,
members. You just can't.
yeah.
It was in the thousands at one point, 14,000 something.
So yeah, something like 14, 15,000.
Mm-hmm.
So the last level was gold. Gold was reserved for the prefect, and there was only one, the co-founder of Nexium, Nancy Salzman. Um. So yeah, you'd have thought that, like I said, but it was by design that Ranieri would have had a different color than everybody else since Nancy had her own color.
Mm-hmm.
Um. But like I said, he did that by design. This way, he wore white to make other people feel comfortable and look, you can do this too. Let's see, what am I going on to next? Okay. ESP makes some bold and unique claims about what it wants to accomplish and what it is. In the summary that follows, the list presents many of the salient points for the ESP program. So ESP, it is designed to help individuals develop emotional and intellectual skills necessary to reach their maximum potential in all areas of life. It is science based on the belief that more consistent a person is in their thinking, the more successful an individual will be. All adults have all adults have disintegrations because they were children learning to be adults and learning about the world. Our perspective was based on the perception, intellect, and wisdom of a small child.
Mm-hmm.
There's never been a vehicle in our society that allowed us to go through and re examine these beliefs and reincorporate them now from an adult perspective until now. Rational inquiry is that vehicle. It is the systematic introspective science that provides us with the necessary tools for human transformation.
Hmm.
There are, this is a key one here, There are no ultimate victims. And we'll find out. Yes, there is.
Mm-hmm.
The information gleaned from ESP seminars is to be kept confidential. Like I said, luckily, past members brought this stuff to light because otherwise you wouldn't know any of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There is a pledge to control as much money of the world as possible within each student success plan. In fact, it is essential for the survival of the world for as much money of the world to be controlled by ethical people.
Mm-hmm.
There's your monetary incentive. And then lastly, it is our belief that humanity cannot survive another fall. All members of the human team must understand the historic reasons behind the tendency so we can change it and survive. We believe this is the ultimate cause because it means our existence and all other causes and our existence depend on this knowledge. The mission of ESP is to develop an integral ethical framework of human experiences to stop the destruction of value in the world and move humanity forward. This
Mm-hmm.
practice session explains ESP's mission and gives the students a clear knowledge of how and why to act and change historic trends. Yeah, Dean Kruger, it sounds like very expensive therapy.
Yes, it does. So I said it sure does. Like, I don't think I can afford that therapy for sure. Well, it just shows you what kind of pull he must have had for people to put so much money into this. As it's of note that the green sashes, right,
Mhm.
Jay, they could actually independently go to other areas of Nexium and operate independently, like some of the other branches.
Mhm.
Edmonton, Sarah Edmonton, and Mark Vicent were both green sashes and were able to operate a whole different branch in a different location for Keith. And so did Claire Broadman, went and traveled to places and encouraged other outside areas to open up their own branches of Nixium. So, like, some independents came, but there were only 3 rungs up. So it just shows you the control he tried to have over these people. They
Mhm.
were they had all, like, they were out there doing his bidding and everything, but he didn't really make them that high up in the organization. If you go by the Sash ranking, he like kept his thumb on them that hard. Do you know what I mean? Like, hmm,
Mhm.
don't let them get too big for their britches.
So I'm going to burn through this next part because it is important because this is something that that we need to
Mm,
talk about because of what's going on. But I'm not going to spend too much time on it. This is known as
okay.
Vanguard Week. Vanguard
Mm-hmm.
Week will actually pop up again when we start talking about DOS because
Okay.
there's some stuff that happens when he got caught.
Yeah.
Um, but to get to that information, you got to know this information. So,
Mm-hmm.
like the British royals, his birthday celebration went on for 10 days. This was known as Vanguard Week. Vanguard never cheated his audience and gave his followers a mere 7 days of birthday celebrations. No, he gave him 10 full days to worship him.
Mm.
Worship him is key here. Normally, Vanguard himself never showed up until the evening of his birthday, and I hate to say it, is the same date as mine, August 26th.
Oh.
Yeah, there's sometimes you find out you
Mm.
share birthday with somebody, you're going, God damn
Well,
it.
well, you are kind of personable, and you
Hey,
can
hey, hey,
yeah,
hey.
you kind of
apparently, I'm a
mesmerizing. It kind
apparently
of
I'm a cult leader, so
Yeah. Well, Chris and I can attest to that. You're trying to take our channels. We know. We know. You people aren't going to let them do that. You're not going to let them get away with this, are you? No.
um Shay's got a question. I've always wondered, when do you wake up and say I want to be a cult leader? Actually, funny
Yeah.
enough, most cult leaders don't start out to be cult leaders.
They don't. Well,
They
did you?
don't.
No, and did you see the statement from Keith Rainier's father? Actually said that when Keith was younger, before he was a full teenager, one day his head just got full and he woke up and thought he was better than everybody else.
Yep, it's
He
because they told
literally
him
said
he
that. Yeah,
yeah,
he
it's because
literally said that. Dad said there was no talking to him after that.
yeah,
No
it's because
talking
they,
to
they
him.
they told him he was a genius because he scored so high
Yep.
on his test, and
And then
his
he couldn't,
head.
and then he never passed an educational course after that.
Yeah.
Which is quite ironic, I think, but it does amuse me. It really does, because yeah, he's so smart. Hmm. But yeah, those were great statements from the father. You know, that it kind of opened my eyes that he just was really that full of himself.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
So, like I said, he never showed up until the evening of his birthday, which is August 26th, usually
Mm-hmm.
5 days into the fabulous event. So 5 days of partying is going on without him being there. Where he would eagerly thronged by his hypnotized devotees, all of whom had taken hundreds of hours of learning to give him tribute and to worship the ground he walked on, lick his toes, or any other part of the anatomy he commanded. Like I said, this is something that will pop up next week. During the first 5 days of V Week, the followers would spend their time listening to Prefect and taking classes, eating low-calorie vegetarian food, and praising Vanguard. Vanguard would stay away, often taking a luxury resort down the road off of the 600-acre Silver Bay campus, eat loads of pizza with hot sauce and chocolate cake and other chocolate confections. He would work out with various select women in the buff to work off those extra calories. I bet he did.
We gotta love those buff workouts. Oh my gosh. Oh, I have to make light because it's just so it like if you know everything that happened, this is like, you know, just leading to just such bad behavior. Just oh my god.
Raven said her birthday was almost Hitler's birthday.
Oh, that reminds me, you know, another thing he enticed people with was when they're working up on the sash, some of the higher ups, he said they were all reincarnated Nazis.
Yeah,
That's what
I
made them so
seen that. I'm like,
powerful. Yeah.
that's a little creepy.
Yeah. Well, Saltzman really liked that. Yeah, she kind of got a kick out of that, to tell you the truth, when I was reading about her. She was thrilled with that assessment.
Queen of Spades says it's funny because working out naked is not sexy.
Yeah, no, there's some of those reaches and stretches that just yeah, it's just like depending on the angle, it's just not good.
So this was written from an article from Silver Bay. So repeated calls to Silver Bay proved unsuccessful in gleaming that there was anyone reserved to come to the Vanguard Week, says tomorrow. In the past, Claire Bronfman rented the entire 600-acre facility with dozens of cabins in a large inn which could accommodate several hundred people. According to those on hand, there was no sequestering of the facility expected tomorrow and for the next 10 days. And subsequently, the place is expected to be overrun by plebeians, many of whom have never heard the blessed name Vanguard, and none of them were integrated. I had to throw that part in because I just thought that was funny.
Oh my god.
So yeah, this is
the Vanguard was held where, like in most years, it was held in these big resorts all over New York,
Silver Bay,
Bayview Lodge, Lake George, many different places. Yeah. Well, it was quite expensive too, wasn't it, Jay? That people had to pay out like $2,000 and up per head.
Yeah, something like that.
Come there and watch Keith Raniere naked and stretching. I don't think so. I don't know, but yeah.
Native Atheist said last time I worked out naked, the gentlemen were called the cops.
Wrong room, right?
So I got a little bit more to run through real quick, and then I'm going to pass it over to Claire. So Nexium has been associated with several related organizations. JNES was a society aimed at women, while the Society of Protectors was aimed primarily at men. A third group was known as the acronym DOS, short for Dominus Obsequious Sonorium, which, according to one member, means master over slave women. And that's what next week's episode will be all about. Will be all about DOS. So like I said, trigger warning for those of you that are uncomfortable with those type of talks. In 2006, and Claire's going to get into this a little bit later, 2006, Raniere founded Rainbow Culture Garden, an international chain of childcare organization in which children were to be exposed to 7 different languages. So JNES, according to JNES, Raniere, according to the New York Times, Raniere started JNES in 2006 and targeted towards the women of Nexium. The name JNES didn't mean anything specifically, with a member describing it as a made-up word that we are defining as we define who we are. JNES website no longer exists, but Glamour reported that it was decorated with pink and purple accents and proclaimed to be women's movement that facilitates an ongoing explanation of what it means to be a woman.
Right.
One of JNS's most high-profile members was obviously Allison Mack, who
Mm-hmm.
raved about the subgroup in a 2013 YouTube video. Working for JNS is the most gratifying thing I have ever done. It is the most challenging because it consists of working with people who are interdependent. No one is ever punished or told that they are wrong or that they are bad, which is bullshit.
Which Jay, of note, that is the position he enticed her with signing the contract and getting his long-term commitment from her when she gave up acting completely to come on board. It was to run Janus, the society, with him, to be high up in there. That was the women's organization inside that she was so proud of. Yeah.
So, going on with Janus, it says, it seems that the opposite is true. According to witness testimony, Janus members were allegedly taught women are irresponsible, if not narcissistic, self-absorbed, and inclined to cast themselves as the victim. Being part of the group were also expensive. There was an 8-day workshops, which reportedly cost J members $5,000 each.
I just can't wait to pay $5,000 to be told I'm not good enough. This is I can't believe it. That's the end result there.
So yeah,
it's just,
give me your money. So I'm gonna give you my money so you can talk down to me for like 11 days.
Right? Yeah, I know. It's just it's like it just I have to laugh a little because the more we delve into it, the more it kind of warps your brain a little to think of how these women were so controlled, and you're wondering, oh, that could never be me, right, Jay? But I don't know.
So
it could be.
We're going to move into the Society of Protectors.
Oh, the opposite.
Just as NXIVM had a subgroup for women, it also had one for men. According to Rolling Stone, the Society of Protectors was founded in 2011. Former member Mark Vicente, who's featured on The Vow, testified that the group's intention was to build character and turn its members from little boys to men. The SOP members had to provide collateral that belonged to the group, which usually included sums of money as high as $1,500. Vicente claimed that if the members did what they were supposed to do, they got their money back. If not, they didn't. SOP members also participated in readiness drills to keep them on alert in case they were ever needed in emergency. If a member went missing. The idea was leave no man behind. I am not going to get into DOS because that's the last organization, because that is going to be all about next week. Let's just say, according to Glamour, the initials in Latin stand for Lord/Master of the Obedient Female Companions. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's
which Ranieri called a sorority.
A sorority of slaves.
A sorority. Yep.
That's what it was.
So that is a rundown of ESP. As you can tell, it was pretty much Scientology knockoff. And that's the best way I can describe it. It was just Scientology knockoff.
Definitely it was. They tried to use a lot of the wording and all, but they just didn't want to belong to that because Ranieri couldn't be part of Scientology without paying in. And he wanted people to pay him. He didn't want to pay other people to do this.
So now what we're going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Claire, and Claire is going to tell you why the government decided it was going to look into NXIVM. So the floor is yours.
Okay, so, we start in 1980 where Keith gets the idea. He's got a business model for peddling memberships to get discounts on top-grade healthcare products and stuff like that, personal growth programs today. Like you said, structured. You got to pay this to go up and all of that. So he's starting with the MLR process. So, experts who evaluated that model had said that just back there, it was enough. Way, way back then, the way he operated was enough to get a warrant against his practices. Because from the start, he was being manipulative and people were not getting what they paid for in any length, No, who would have thought, right? Not Keith.
Not
Keith
Keith.
Rainier.
He was such a
Not that
nice
stand-up
guy and
comic.
so
I
believable.
Look into my eyes. Yes, I know. Well, anyway, he picked up this business structure in the early 80s, and he took like Amway sales training. Of all things, who would have thought? Like, let's go to the original MLM guys, let's go to the guys that started it all and learn from the top. As he did with everything else he picked and choose, right? So they're known to millions of Americans as being like, legitimate, but they are one of the big pyramid schemes around, just like Avon and Mary Kay and several other ones. But some people just take it to a different level, like Keith. If you don't do it properly, you can run aside of the way that these things are supposed to be run very easily. It is very, very easily to keep it legitimate, but it's just as easy to get carried away in a pyramid scheme like this and go off what they call like when it gets off the rails, it's called a claim distributor scheme. Okay. Put simply, that makes an MLM illegal. Is when you require participants to invest their own money for a chance to make money by enlisting more participants in the recruitment game. Once you require to put your own money in, plus get other people to put money in, that's when you're getting into shady area as far as the government's concerned. They don't like that. Although you can make profits or percentages off other people's sales like you can in Avon and some of these other things, the actual recruitment for money is a problem. Okay. What really puts it in the danger area is that it's unlawful. These unlawful schemes result in networks of members and sales teams, and the participants at the top get extraordinarily wealth, while the risk for those below is greater and gets greater and greater the more people come in, because all the money gets funneled up to the top and all of the risk is funneled down to the bottom. And that does seem like it should be illegal, right? Because that sounds like extortion in some ways, doesn't it, for the little people? His past business models involved like enlisting people to purchase memberships. He actually would call them memberships. In other words, you have to join the membership so that you can join a membership, and we're still going to charge you for your classes. But in order to be charged for your classes, you got to join the membership. Like, is that bizarre or what? Like, I got to pay you so that you can charge me so that I can get education. That's not going to mean anything at the end.
Just so you guys have an information, the top 4 MLMs in the world right now are Amway, starting at number 1, Amway, Market America, Avon, and Herbalife.
And Herbalife, and the other two are fairly newer. The other two have been around for quite some time, but they do it right. It's interesting that so many of them fail. And I know Queen's in the chat, and she knows MLNs. Like, she's all over the MLN industry. She puts out a video a day on these guys, and so she knows this structure very well and what's illegal and not illegal about them and when they go astray. Very interesting how these guys operate. So in the federal court in New Jersey, Lori was defending a cult watcher sued for publishing the NXIVM training material. It was repeatedly suggesting that NXIVM is a kind of unlawful business scheme. And so they said, like, I'll refrain from calling it a Ponzi scheme, but of course, that's exactly what it is. And they said that in a court of law. They were like, I'm not going to call it a Ponzi scheme, but hey, it is a Ponzi scheme. I'm like, yeah, that's a perfect argument right there, But anyway, they actually, when they pulled up the Nexium business practice, they said that document alone established the way that Nexium operates internally, financially, in a violation of general business law in the state of New York, where they're incorporated to run all of this and where they were. They said in that federal court proceeding, while they were working on gathering all this together, that every document that established Nexium is run as a version of an MLN scheme in violation of a consent order that Rainier entered into with the New York State Attorney General in connection with consumer byline. He was already in violation
Yep.
of MLN like practices way before he started this big MLN. Okay, they'd already busted him cold with consumer byline, and he actually in order to be able to operate in the state of New York and run a business, he had to sign an agreement with them that he would not do certain things. And everything he did in Nexium violated that agreement. That's fascinating to me, Jay, that he literally thinks he's above all this. He's going to put his name on a piece of paper and thinks he's above all of it. Now,
Well, that's why he didn't put his name on shit when he came to Nexium.
This is it, because that's what he was doing. Every woman that became part of Nexium, her name would be used to buy properties, to buy this, to enter into like whatever kind of banking they needed, whatever kind of investments they needed, whatever a signature was needed, an ownership or corporation or some kind of legal document, it would be one of the women. It would not be Keith. You know, it comes down to it. Keith wasn't on anything, right? I mean, it was all, and he had to keep them all in control to keep it, right? I mean, that's a lot. He had his fingers everywhere.
Yeah, his little grubby Mitch were in everything. But legally, his name wasn't on shit.
No, but he still was running it and organizing it. Now, to get around that, he's the one that signed the papers not to do things a certain way. But when you read the business plan or the modules for Nexium, Rainier's all over them. He's the top. Oh, yeah. It says right in the first document, I am the vanguard, like I am the top. Here, this is all my perception of how everything should be. These are my teachings. You know, this is a program that you're going to get through. So he actually put himself all over it and just made it quite obvious that it is him. Just thinking that, well, there's no incorporation that says I am, so you really can't do anything about it. But the state of New York felt otherwise, okay? They said, bullshit, Keith. Like, you can't, bullshit. I call bullshit, Keith. No. You cannot operate that way, you know. He had already closed out consumer byline back in 1997, you know. There was a lot going on, but then they started looking at him well into it. And if you'll remember, in 2017, okay, they were already looking into the business practices of Keith because they knew he was in violation. There were complaints about him collecting money from people for this type of MLN's clan. People were not getting what they paid for. So much. Now, there wasn't a lot of complaints from the women or things like that. There were a few business complaints filed. They were mostly by gentlemen. Maybe they didn't get along very well in that other group. You know, maybe, you know, I'm not sure, but they didn't like that they had to pay so much in and they weren't getting so much out. Also, you know, you can understand with Keith's kind of attitude, Jay, would you think that maybe he had more of a tussle with the guys that were in Nexium than he would have?
Oh, yeah. For him, it would have been harder to control the men than it would have been for the women.
Exact. There'd be pushback. And what do you think happens if you push Keith Rainier? What do you think happens? I think you fall. I think you fall, and they call you, what was that? A Luciferian? I think they become Luciferians like overnight.
Now,
and they,
this is a good thing because this is something I want to bring up because we're not going to get into. We probably won't get into it in the next 2 episodes, but this is a good point to put here. As there was a young lady in Alaska that pushed back and then disappeared, but when they found her, she had left a note saying that she couldn't do it anymore. Basically, it was a suicide note, but they're pretty sure that Rainier had her taken out, had her killed because she'd pushed back against the organization.
Did you just add murder to the list of enticing things about Nexium? Well, allegedly.
Like I said, it may be something we touch up on but it's not something that really popped up in the court hearings. But there are, like I said, probably one of the first or second episode when we were talking, I had mentioned that there were a couple of strange deaths that they may have attributed to, and that was one of them. Was the young lady from Anchorage, Alaska. So. Yeah.
Well, well, let me just say, You remember the woman Barbara Boucher, his partner in the beginning that you went through in 2009, when in her deposition, when she was actually, there was all these bankruptcies and discrepancies. There were other legal cases against Nexium or the people involved in Nexium well before the takedown, which started in 2018. Leading up to that, Barbara Boucher had given evidence that said that anyone that got to a certain level, okay, I'm trying to remember the name of the level here. It was oh God.
I like what Dean said while you're looking up that. I'm not saying that he dusted her, but he dusted her.
I'm not saying it. That is kind of what you said.
And Shay with the dum dum dum.
Yeah. In that 2009 deposition, which was about another case, which was about a misappropriation of funds or something like that, and they were trying to figure out if it's related to the MLN. Barbara Duche herself said that when asked Renier if it was a multi-level marketing scheme, he wouldn't say, okay? But then Barbara Duche said that everyone that was making any type of commission inside Nexium was required to sign up and pay for one of Nexium's programs called Ethos, and it cost $2,000. So that is what the federal government used to go forward to prove that in order to be part of it, you had to pay something, and you had to keep paying for these classes to continue. So in other words, even though you were part of the organization, which is, everybody like signs up and, you're moving up, no matter how far up you got, okay, you still had to pay to stay in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what made it illegal. That is what made it illegal. They're you know how the green sashes are making some money? They're making commissions on the people they bring in. They're doing okay. They still are required to pay to take classes. There's something wrong with that. That is the line that they're saying that Keith Renier, that's what made it hard, fast, illegal in their eyes. And they started, gathering evidence on that. Now, they had been giving him paperwork back and forth, and the state of New York was fighting with him for years about this, okay, about this contract and whether or not he could even operate this organization, whether he was operating this organization and in control of it, like every nitpicky thing you can think of. And he had they were going back and forth and back and forth. And of course, this was all getting funded by Nexium itself, by the money that's coming in from everybody, Broadman, everybody, all of the classes, paying for him to keep it and to keep his partners and everybody out of trouble with this. But they had such a file on him. By the time, here's where it gets dicey. In 2017, after a while, we spoke these names before, Sarah Edmonton and Mark Vicent. They were off in another part of New York, running their own part of Nexium. Some financial stuff started happening. They look at it and they go, oh my God, this is illegal. Okay. They start looking at things that way. And then Vicent notices that Sarah Edmond is not acting the way she used to. They used to be really good friends. She was a very open and gregarious woman, bubbly almost, charismatic, could talk on any level with anyone. And she was becoming closed off and keeping to herself. And it was because of the DOS part. Okay. That is when the New York Times article came out. Mark Vicent and Sarah Edmonton, they had talked. He approached her. She confessed everything to him. His wife Bonnie got involved. And he talked to her, and they admitted that there was this secret type of organization, and all hell broke loose. They closed that area. They ended up going to the government with what they knew. And then the article in the New York Times came out.
Now you may say, no, go ahead.
No, that's when everything started to fall apart. That's when the case really took a turn, because they already knew he was shady in his business dealings. Okay. They already knew they were building up stuff on racketeering. They're already building up stuff on credit card fraud. They're always building all this stuff up. But when that part of it broke, it took a whole different turn,
Now, you may say to yourself, Jay, Claire, This sounds an awful lot like what Scientology does. How can that be? Well,
Mm,
Scientology is considered a religion, and the money that you put into Scientology is considered a donation.
mhm.
That's how they get away
Because
with their.
they got the classification, but in the
They got the
state of New York,
classification
yeah,
as a religion,
yeah,
so that way, yes, you can give us money to take these classes and move up in the organization, but it's not an
yeah.
MLM because we are a
Mhm.
religion.
And the other thing that Scientology does that Keith did not do, although I mean he did have to pay a lot in lawyers' fees, but Scientology is heavy on lawyers.
Oh, good
they
lord.
Yeah, they just you just fight, 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 and they use that church stance,
Hmm.
as best they can to do everything that they can. But at least set it up that way in the beginning, so it kind of protected them somewhat. Certain laws don't apply to them, unfortunately, and they are allowed to do a lot more damage. It's one of the most damaging cults I think out there is still in existence now. Although I'm hearing that it's much, much, much smaller than it used to be here in the United
Hmm.
States. But that the because the largest part of Scientology, from what I have to check this out. So if anybody in the chat knows, or slide into my DMs, or you can tell me right there. But I heard that the international part of Scientology, the larger group, has disavowed Miscavige and this end of Scientology and has labeled them as suppressive. And I got such a hoot when I heard that. Like I kind of laughed out loud, Jay.
Yeah, I don't. I
You,
don't know about that. I
yeah.
haven't looked into Scientology in quite a long
Mhm.
time. Um,
Apparently, there's a lot
but
less members here in the United States than there used to be, and the larger part of the organization disavowed them. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to check that out because boy, that's gonna be some episode, huh? I'm gonna look.
like
I'm looking for the evidence. I'm
like
looking
Shay
now.
says, Scientology has their own alphabet soup group. Who is that in the thumbnail? That is Keith Raniere himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's key. So anyway, that's how we get to uh the fall, and that's what they were saying. They did say that there's racketeering, which would
Hmm.
be the part that they're talking about is selling services that that you don't get, or making it so that you can't get out of it, and they're always making money off of you illegally. With that, there was credit card fraud. People would pay for things, and then all of a sudden their numbers are cloned. Their identities are cloned and taken and used for
Hmm.
other things. Like little mistakes happening like that all over the place, like accidentally, kind of on purpose to plump things up
Now,
a little bit.
I want to jump a little bit here. What
Mhm.
can you tell us about the Rainbow Group?
The Rainbow Culture Garden. Okay, that's another subgroup. Okay, and that just
Now, why is this group important? I should reiterate what I said. Why is this group important to the case?
this group is important to the case because they started this group for children that they were going to teach them like 7 different languages or something like that. And yet, when they looked at the program itself, everybody says that this Rainbow Cultural Garden Group, any child that went through it would come out of it with cognitive damage and language deficiency. It appears through the federal government's investigation and through all of the investigations were done in regards to this end of it, that this group was set up, and it actually looks like it may have been the start of a grooming group for minors to bring them into the other end of what they call the sex cult part of it, which is very disturbing. The program itself was damaging. It did not promote language use for these children. It was just, the Rainbow Cult, it wasn't just an illegal and uncontrolled experiment on small children. They were against all evidence of proper language use, acquisition, and important for any kind of intellectual development whatsoever. How they put this thing together is just is just it's an affront to education in general. The fact that they could even call it a teaching program was offensive.
Mm.
Um, Almost all of the research people involved were second language speakers. Okay, they did not have a good foundation in English itself. It was They were trying to get the children to speak all different, talking to them in many different languages at the same time. It just made confusion. It made it just, they lost their language. I can't explain it. Like, them trying to make it better for them to speak multiple languages, actually they lost their regular language skills. They went backwards instead of forwards.
Mhm.
Um,
Like
eh,
Shay says, that's what I was thinking. It was grooming for like the Children of God singing group was.
Well, Sarah Brofman herself easily afforded the $120,000 per year per child cost of a rainbow program. Okay. She put her children through it. This was for the children of people that participated in Nexium. It was another part of the program that you could add your children into, but you had to pay. In other words, just something else they offered, but it was another way for Keith to get more money out of them. And they brought other children in too from outside the organization, which is what led them to believe in the grooming part of it. Um, a lot of what they were teaching set these children backwards. And I can't believe that, someone with all the resources of Sarah Brofman um, did this to her children. I mean, they're cognitively damaged, they said, from the process is a pretty strong statement, don't you think?
Yeah,
This,
I mean,
yeah.
it's at some point you cults like these are going to venture down roads that are questionable. Some
Mm-hmm,
of them are just downright cruel and abusive,
mm-hmm,
and I think that the Rainbow Group was almost as bad as DOS when it
mm-hmm.
comes to what it did to the children. Now,
Yeah.
I haven't heard any confirmation of any illegal sexual activity against the children,
No, there were no charges filed about anybody
yeah,
attending that school at the time.
but it,
However, the instructors and the people running it were people that were started very young.
yeah,
The girls they brought from Mexico, the
yep,
younger girls that were minors at the time. Yeah. Mm,
and
they're
it's the damage it did to the cognitive ability of the children that
mhm,
I think is almost as bad as what happened to the brandings and the women, because now these kids are going to be scarred for years, if
mhm,
not for the rest of their life, for what they were put through. So,
mhm. Yeah, because this organization went totally against the fact that when you're speaking your mother tongue, the one that you're raised around and with you and everything, that you are more uh secure in your knowledge and better prepared to learn something. And they were trying to strip that away and give all multiple languages to you at the
mhm.
same time. And where do you find your foundation to actually learn like things? It made it more difficult for the kids to actually grasp the concepts that were being presented to them for learning. um, it was kind of just ass backwards, actually, and against everything that is put out there on the way to learn a second language or a third language, and just the learning process, including, like, we know that children at a younger age are more easily adaptable to pick up a second or even third or fourth language. They can do it easily, but it is easier to teach them from their main tongue the more important subjects and other lessons than it is all these other languages that they're learning, and studies have proven that. But that's not what they believed in this one. They just thought they knew better. It was kind of scary. It really was. Now, someone, the Klein, what was her first name? I can't remember her name. The one that married
Oh,
Alison
yeah,
Clark. Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
remember what
Anyway,
the name was.
she was very heavily involved in running this part of the organization. In From the last update that I got, that still was not completely disbanded, I believe. I'm gonna have to check that further, but
From what
the
I
last.
understand, there are some members left, and they are known as We Are. What was it? I just read it. We Are So Far, or something like that. It's
Yeah,
something. It's
maybe.
something like that. Something like We Are So Far, or something like that.
Hmm. And that's, so they're still operating, and so they may even still have this rainbow garden still up.
Shay
Mhm.
says, "Isn't bringing children from Mexico considered trafficking minors?"
Yep, there were charges for that.
Yep. Yeah.
They
So
got dropped.
we'll get into all that on the last
Mhm.
episode when we actually get into the
Mhm.
charges for each one and their sentencing. So yeah,
Mhm.
this does have unlike a lot of cults, this has got an ending that I think it was fitting, but I don't think some of them got enough. Let's just put it that way.
Well, that's always curious with the sentencing. Just let it be known that everybody else that got sentenced along with Keith, everybody else that got charged along with Keith, everybody else cooperated. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keith's the only one who didn't cooperate. So
So
because of course Keith didn't do anything wrong, right? Why should he cooperate? But he says, this is something. So what else can I tell you?
Well, I think everything that's coming up left with that will be covered on the last show. So
no, it is. I mean, we covered the structure, we covered the MLN part of it, we covered why they started looking into it without actually reading the New York Times article, which I recommend everybody. We should get that link. Actually, no, because you can't get too many free New York Times, right? It might not work for everybody.
I've already used up all my New York Times.
Yeah, I was going to say, let me see if I can get a different link to that article than the New York Times link, because that's a fascinating article that Edmonds and Visant did that started to bring this down. There's also the several documentaries. The Vow on HBO is about that process of bringing it down. It focuses totally on bringing down Nexium.
There are some great podcasts out there. One of them I recommend, if you want to look it up, look into Cults from the Podcast Network. They do a 5-part series on Nexium. Was really good, really well.
Yep.
Yeah, you get a really good rundown on that. And Shay says, "My bad, not trying to get you to give away your next video." That's okay. That's the problem we've had with this running this and trying to do it linear the way we're doing it, is because there is things we want to talk about, but we want to save it for certain episodes. So yeah, there are things you will hint at it, but there's a reason, because there are. When we set this up, when I set it up and I had the idea for this, I wanted to do it in certain stages. That's why that's why this series is running 7 episodes. Is because I wanted to introduce the major players, and I wanted to introduce the cult itself, and then I wanted to move into the nasty parts of it, and then I wanted the end of it, wrapping it all up in a big ball so we can throw it in the garbage and we're all done. So
and there's a lot of people have covered it. I know several creators that I'm friendly with. Queen of Spades, one of them, who was here in the chat earlier, who has done several videos on Nexium, that if you want to get just an hour or two overview of some of the more disturbing parts, and she does a really good job in focusing on certain areas of it. You can check those out. But there's plenty of content on it. Not that we're steering you away from our content, because we're going to go into it a little more deeper, but we wanted to, like Jay said, section it out into some of the more interesting and give you a foundation of it from a different view, taking it apart a little bit different than everybody else was doing. It's easy to focus on the charges, right? It's easy to focus on the sentencing, but nobody was actually picking the players out and saying, how the hell did they get involved?
And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to, because you hear so much about the players, but you don't do the deep dives. Some of them do a really good job. Like I said, Parcast did a fantastic job in their 5-part series.
You know what? Shay has a suggestion for us there, and I was going to ask you, Jay, in private, but I'm glad that Shay brought it up in public.
I don't know if I know that one.
I do. It's not that big, and we could do it in one, but I'd love to do it with you, Jay. I've already got like half of it. Like, I got it all laid out, but it was I didn't want to make a private video on it because I hate making standalone videos.
We'll keep that in mind, which is a good segue to ending this. Nerdy says, are there any happy, lighthearted cults? Yes, the cult of the flying spaghetti monster.
Yes, the spaghetti monster guy. I like it. I just crack up every time I see him. That's a happy quote. I like that one.
Not to mention there's Dudism.
Yo, the Church of Dude. Oh
the
God,
Church of the Dude.
Yeah, the Church of the Dude.
But
wait, there's Naked Bear Church too. We go to that.
Yeah, the Naked Bear Church.
Oh, and the one I belong to that Grumpy got me on, the Church of the Duck, the old duck. The Church of the Magnificent Duck. Yeah, there's that. Yeah. So yeah, there's plenty of good happy cults out there.
So that brings a good thing of what's coming up on Cults and Conspiracies. The next 2 weeks, like I said, we still have 2 more episodes of Nexium. Next week will be DOS. The next 2 weeks are going to be hard to listen to if you guys are sensitive to the topic of sex crimes, physical abuse, things like that.
Mental abuse.
Mental abuse. So just be aware. If you don't show up for those 2 episodes, if we get hardly anybody there, we understand. There's no downside on that. We got a $5 super chat from Native Atheist. Good show.
Hey, thank you. That's nice to hear.
Thank you. But coming up on Cults and Conspiracies, after we wrap up with Nexium in the next 2 weeks, Chris and I will be looking at was Paul McCartney replaced? Did he actually die, and was he actually replaced? And then
that's so funny.
And then after that one, I believe Chris has been hinting at it and talking about it. I think we're finally going to cover the Raelians for the next cult.
You know, he did throw that at us in
he's been throwing that at us for a while. So and I don't know.
Up in our other stream too.
Yeah, and from what I understand, this is a different Raelians than what I know. So apparently, there's 2 different Raelians. So I don't know anything really about this one.
Really?
I was thinking he was talking about the one about Lord Rael, and he's like, no, there's a different one. So I'm like, oh, so yeah.
Well,
Shay says, ooh, an oldie but goodie, Paul. Yep.
There you go.
We're not trying to drive you off, Krabby. We understand.
No, yeah, we understand. But you know what? Did you hear, Krabby? There's going to be 2 true crime series during the week for you to come hang out with us.
There will. On Mondays over on Claire's channel, me and her talk true crime updates. And then starting tomorrow night over on my channel on True Serial, I'll be starting my live discussions with Claire on serial killers and older true crime stories. Particularly more likely serial killers, because that is my bread and butter. If you want a fantastic episode, go watch the one from Monday night. It ran a little longer than normal, but there was a lot of good conversation there.
There was. Everybody, we were all talking about our love of this and all the great cases. There were more names and serial killers thrown out there. Some really good shit. It was great.
That episode actually got us going on to what's coming up on Monday on Claire's shows. We're going to talk about John Hagee, the acid bath killer. So.
That's gonna be fun.
Yeah, and I'm gonna let Claire do all the research, because I think that'll be fun for her. Let her do the research, and I'll comment and do my comments like I normally do, because I know about John Hagee. You know, being the that I've studied serial killers and whatnot,
and I know nothing about John.
And she knows nothing, so it's gonna be interesting to watch her go into this brand new with the research that she's come up with. So.
We'll see Monday. I still say I know nothing, right?
Ted Franks, you're always a stalker. Raven is my stalker,
my favorite
though.
stalker.
Yeah, Raven's my favorite stalker, though.
Ted's a friendly stalker. I like Ted. He makes me smile. He's a good egg.
Krabby does say, besides, Krabby's got an excellent point here. She says, besides, as horrible as it sounds, knowing one isn't alone in such things is actually helpful to healing if one lets it. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that is good. That is a very good point. A very good point, Krabby.
So, Claire, what else you got coming up this week? I know you got like 15 streams this week.
No, I'm halfway through. I think I've only got a few left. But tonight I have an IT with Tina Crazy Wheels. I believe it's at 7:00 on my channel. It's written on the back of my community tab. And then on Thursday, I do have a 10:00 in the evening stream for holiday, but I'm not sure of the guests because we had a slight cancellation, but I'm still going to go forward with the stream. I'm doing holiday stress streams, 1 hour conversations about just dealing with all of the extra pressure that's put on everybody around this time of year, and giving people a chance to just talk about the fact that maybe they're just not so damn happy about it that everybody wants them to be. And it's been working out really well, Jay. They've been great streams for different issues and for different reasons, and people are opening up, and I just like watching people connect and just knowing that you're never really alone out there. No one's ever really alone if you don't want to be. There's always a place for you somewhere, someone to listen to you. Friday, I'll be here. I believe if you guys are still here, I'll be here. Oh no, I won't be here.
we
Because we're
don't
not
have
here.
6.
No, we're not here. So Friday at 4 o'clock, I'll be on Be It Say It. That's my friend's channel, which is also listed on the back of my community tab. We're going to talk about pros and cons of white knighting. Is it a good thing? Like when you white knight for somebody, like you just go to bat for somebody on an issue. And when
I can
creators have
see
to do
where
that.
I can see where it's a yes and a no. So
It's a yes and a no. There's pros and
yep.
cons, and and I had fun doing the thumbnail for that stream because it's quite interesting. And then I do believe Jen may have a tits out stream after that.
I think she said she does have a tits out.
Yep, we're doing the holiday tits out, running right into the holiday mayhem at 11 o'clock on my channel, and that'll be the last one of the year until January. And then Saturday I have a Saturday. I'm almost done, Jay. I'm almost done.
I know
Saturday.
it was.
Yeah, at 9 o'clock, I'm having a conversation with Lee Veltman and Jolly Bridge Burner, and we're going to be talking about the troubled teen industry. Lee is very well vested and very knowledgeable about that, and I've been trying to get together with him on Paris Hilton and all this other stuff, and we're just going to have an open discussion, question and answers for people in the chat to start the ball rolling and go from there. So that should be pretty interesting. And that'll be it for the week, Jay, and back, you can have
Krabby says number 8. Blame that person who thinks taking 3 weeks off is a good idea.
well, according to my schedule, it is for me because it took off and everybody else filled in. I don't know, but I will miss you all because I like hanging over here at Hereticals. Like, what are we gonna do, Jay? Like, gosh.
Well, that's why we're talking serial killers and true crime.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, Chris. Good stuff.
Yeah, look for a very special episode of. We don't want to give any spoilers, but when we hit the episode 100, which is coming up really shortly for Six Pack, we've got a lot of good things coming up keep your eyes out for that. And then make sure that you are going to Heretical's channel. You are checking out the community tab and voting on the polls for the fundies. So
yes. On the fundies, because we're going to be doing that sometime in January. Yeah.
Yep. We'll be giving out the Fundy Award. So make sure you go to the communities tab on Hereticals and vote. So with that, well, you got anything else?
Nope. I'm good. I'm gonna miss you guys. Yeah.
Well,
I'm not gonna miss you. Like it's like I'll see you tomorrow.
For for everyone here at Hereticals, thank you so much for joining us. For me and from Claire and for Chris, who's somewhere.
Somewhere.
Thank you all for coming.
Yep, wherever you are, 8. Have a good day.
Yeah. To thank you everybody in the chat. Like we said, Hereticals isn't Hereticals without you guys in the chat. That's why we always try to keep up with the comments. Always try to incorporate your conversations with ours. Thank you so much. Even if it's silly, even if it's, especially if it's relevant. And like I said, we even like the silly stuff. So, especially a lot of us especially like the silly stuff. But thank you all. Yeah. You all are members of the Heretical family, just like I am, just like Claire is, just like Chris and Jen and Ed and Matt. So thank you all for being here. And Jade.
And Jade.
Yep, and Jade. Yep.
We'll see you all soon.
Big loves out to Jade. I hope she's getting better. So, thank you all. Thank you for showing up.
Right. We'll see you next.
Join us. Mind you, remember next week is a touchy subject. If you don't show up because you don't want to listen to the topics that are of assault and sexual
Mhm,
situations, we completely 100% understand. Thank you all for
mhm.
joining us. Until next
Yeah.
time, be water, my friends.
And drink coffee. Bye.